Hello and welcome to the 2014 Santa Clarita City Council Candidates Forum.
Good afternoon. My name is Berta Gonzalez-Harper, and thank you for inviting me to participate in this forum. I've lived in the same modest Canyon country home for 21 years, and I've been actively involved in this community for virtually all of those years. I have remained involved, sharing my passion and love for our city, while knowledgeable, understanding, and balance of the issues. As a nonpartisan voter and grassroots candidate, I'm not beholden to developers, a political party, unions, or any other special interests. I have no conflicts of interest or big money donors, boards, or other obligations requiring resignation. I retired early and am available full-time to dedicate to public service. I have years of business experience dealing with complex issues and personalities, abundant common sense, the courage to stand up for what I believe in, and the persistence to find answers on my own without relying on others to tell me how I should view an issue or decide an issue. I'm committed to serving my community as a public servant without further political aspirations. I hope after hearing what I have to say, residents will go to my website, www.berta4santaclarita.com, find my contact information, and ask me to provide more in-depth answers to their questions. And I also invite folks to share their community concerns with me. Thank you for your consideration.
Do you think we should change anything about the structure of our current form of government? For example, the number of seats on City Council, having an elected mayor, or moving to districts?
Well, actually, you'll notice that Gloria and I are both Americans of Hispanic ancestry, and we have one other candidate also this time around, and all three of us are opposed. So it seems to me that if you have an issue that Hispanics felt that they were disenfranchised by not having a Hispanic on the City Council, that the three candidates would be using that as part of their platform. I'm opposed for many reasons, but amongst them are I'm a Los Angeles native. I grew up in the San Fernando Valley that has districts, and those districts have vast disparity in the investment in those communities, whether or not there's a Hispanic as the district representative or not. I use Pacoima and Sherman Oaks as examples. They're both districts. Pacoima has a Hispanic district representative. Sherman Oaks does not. There's no reasonable person that would insist that both of those communities have exactly the same level of community investment. So I don't like anything that separates us by race or ethnicity, and I really don't think that your race or ethnicity should matter in whether or not you can do an effective job for all the people of the city. Thank you.
The city is looking at a billboard proposal from Metro. What do you think the city should do about this? Well,
you know, I'm a community member that years ago was very involved in the sign ordinance issue, and one of the issues that many community members brought up was the proliferation of billboards and how they were ugly, and they really cut down the sight line in a lot of communities, particularly in Canyon Country because of our Soledad business corridor. I'm of the opinion that it doesn't have to be an us against them issue. There's room for negotiation. Metro owns the property, so they should have the right to do certain things on their property. Edwards leases those locations, and they knew going in that there was a probability that those leases would terminate. I think that there are other venues where small businesses can advertise. I don't think most people drive down Soledad looking for a billboard to see where they're going to go to the dentist. So I don't know how effective they are. But there's room for negotiation, and I think on the larger billboards there could be some accommodation for either a sliding fee scale or a community day where, you know, local small business people can advertise at lesser costs. But I'm sure it can be worked out. Negotiation.
Do you think the Santa Clarita Valley's emergency winter shelter should be available and open year-round to serve the population? And if so, where should that shelter be located?
Yes, I am in favor of a year-round shelter, and the reason for that is I go way back to where it used to be in the Merle Norman warehouse where the sports complex is now, and people that have to use the services of the shelter are not necessarily what most people think of. There are people just like me who are, you know, one payday away from homelessness, or who have, you know, a divorce happen or some other catastrophic event. But more than that, I think we have the obligation to take care of our own. The ability of a shelter to site is now written into our general plan. There are areas that by right they can put a shelter in. Business parks, and I believe actually where they're at right now is one of those areas. But the challenge is they already have social services, they already have dental, they already have a lot of things, but they can only offer them when the shelter is available now. And if you had a year-round one, you could provide more of those services on all year long. Thank you.
What do you think is the proper role for a city council member in terms of managing staff?
I believe that we as an incorporated city, and I'm going to use the word incorporated intentionally because incorporated means we're a corporation in a sense. City council is the board of directors and the city manager is the CEO. The board of directors should make sure that the CEO is capable and then get out of the way. Unless there's some egregious example of something that's happened where they need to step in, it really shouldn't be the city council's job to micromanage the staffing. That should be the city manager's job. And we have a very capable staff, I believe, and I've worked with virtually every department. And if there's a problem, you go to the city manager and it is resolved. So I don't really feel that as a city council person that would be my job. Pay attention, absolutely, because we don't want a Bell Gardens situation, but don't make it your job to be looking over everybody's shoulder all the time. Thank you.
The city of Santa Clarita has successfully had well over 20 annexations. At times, annexations are revenue neutral, meaning they don't cost the city anything. Other times, the annexations bring money to us as a result of increased sales tax, and there are times we'd actually lose money. Would you vote yes or no to annex Stevenson Ranch, West Ranch into the city of Santa Clarita?
Well, I think back to the One Valley, One Vision concept, and we originally planned to be one city. It was LAFCO that decided otherwise. But given the situation as it exists, the city does not have a policy of annexing in areas unless those areas want to be annexed in. That's the first step in the annexation process. But as an existing city resident and a taxpayer, I would not support any annexations that were going to cost money to the existing city residents. So if it's revenue neutral or a plus, then I would support it. But if it's going to cost people who are already city residents to annex an area in, then I would have a problem with that. We'd have to look at all the aspects because there may be other reasons for them wanting to annex in. But generally, I'd love to see us as we were originally intended, one valley with one vision and no districts. Thank you.
In order to encourage economic growth, the city regularly supports businesses with either tax incentives or subsidies to bring more jobs to Santa Clarita. If elected, what types of these incentives or subsidies would you propose?
Well, I know that in the past the city has given some incentives to companies like Costco and Home Depot for them to locate in the Canyon Country area, and they've been successful in that area and it's been very helpful. We've also had propositions, and that's the word that I'm going to use, from companies like Nordstrom, but they were holding us up for millions of dollars. I mean, we either had to pay up or they weren't coming. So I would support incentives and tax breaks, but they have to make sense. It doesn't make sense to me to give somebody like Nordstrom millions of dollars so that they can come into our community and make millions of dollars. That's, unfair favoritism in comparison to other businesses. But I would support tax incentives, and I would support, it's unfortunate we actually lost our redevelopment area thanks to our governor, because I was actually at the point where I was going to request one for Canyon Country so that we could help those business people upgrade their properties, their shopping centers, et cetera, and have that ability to do so with money that they could use. Thank you.
Is it appropriate for the city to use its public tax dollars to support services the county is responsible for funding? Can you provide an example of when that might be appropriate?
Well, actually, I'm going to answer the question that was asked. The library situation is exactly a great example of what the question addresses. The libraries were county. We sent money to the county, and yet when it came to build facilities, the county said no, and the city built the facilities, the Canyon Country Library and the Newhall Library. So I think that there are other areas, perhaps the senior center is another example of where either we could, as a city, partner with the nonprofit agency that currently runs it, or municipalize them and build additional facilities where they're needed. I know the needs assessment has been done. But to say that city money is not spent on county facilities would be incorrect, because we have already done that with the libraries. And the end result was that we saw that we were spending double money, sending it to the county as taxpayers, and then as city taxpayers still having to do the work. So there you have it.